I'll be sharing today how I achieve my most tasty eru with spinach, especially if you're abroad and you have no access to water leaf, to get this eru looking still this green and tasting delicious. I'll also give you the best tip on how to transport your eru from overseas and get it keeping its green color. If you want to find out how I achieve this, keep watching the video. So these are my ingredients I'll be using. This is fresh shin beef. This is like dry fish, or we call it mololo or strong kanda. It's perfect in eru. This is just dry fish, dry meat. This was dried and my mom brought it. That's shaki or tribe, and then that's cow foot, which I'll start cooking first because this is actually really hard. I'll add the dry meat actually to it and cook it together because this is dried really well. And then I've got my salt, maggi, crayfish, and palm oil. The only thing I'll add here is pepper and spinach. After about 30 minutes of the cow food cooking and the dry meat, I add shaki because it's not as tough, and I also add my fresh beef. Again, this comes in later so that it can cook together. There's something that I add which most people don't or might agree is just onions. I add some onions and I add 2 cubes of seasoning and some salt. Let it cook for about 30 minutes till it's done. Set it aside, and then I go to spinach. I just use frozen spinach for eru. You can use fresh spinach if you have access, but just on a tip here, cooking abroad, when it's frozen, you have a lot more, and the hard work has been done for you already, and it's been sliced and just frozen, and it keeps green like this. If you've got fresh, that's okay. I use 3 packs here. On to the star of the day, which is the eru. So eru, or commonly known as afang, it's normally brought into the UK by my mom. So the tip I'll share here is to get the color green. You buy it fresh abroad, just freshly sliced. Leave it to get dry in the sun for less than 10 minutes so that it doesn't have water and it keeps long in the fridge. Once you put that in cold water when you're about to cook, you will retain all of the color and it comes out looking this fresh. Now onto cooking. I add the meat gradually, the cooked meat. I've just separated it like you can see. I start with whatever I think is a bit tough and I add it gradually to the spinach. The tip here with eru is constant stirring. You need to constantly stir your eru. By the way, although I used onions to cook it, it was for the flavor. I did not use the stock to cook the eru. I just kept gradually adding my beef. So I started with my cow foot. Once the spinach cooked, after about say 10 minutes, when all the water dried out, because we want it to be not too watery but soft. That's the tip. So I just keep adding the meat and stirring continuously. While I do that, I keep tasting my salt and my seasoning. And as I keep going, I need to either add some more cubes, some more salt, and I just keep stirring. What I'll say is if you don't have young kids eating this eru, you can blend some Scotch bonnets. I'll say for a big pot like this, I'll use 4 or 5. And I'll put say 2 green ones in the food. When it's green, the flavoring is even best. And you can see I keep stirring. I'm adding some dry fish here. And of course, the process just carries on. Stirring, I'd put my dry meat, I'd put all of the meat I boiled before, and I just keep stirring till I taste and I feel like it's right. And the next thing I do is the green eru, which I'll add gradually. I just, take the balls and I spread it so that it's easier to mix properly. The tip that I have learned is I add the eru gradually. That's the real way you cook eru, so that it's not too soft or it's not too hard. And you just see how it's going. You see exactly how you like it. Some people like it tougher. The proper Manu people like it strong. And abroad, a lot of us prefer it softer. Like in my house, my husband likes it soft, my mom likes it a bit hard. So the sweet spot is just having it in the middle. And you can see I keep mixing. If your arms are not strong enough, I can tell you this is not something you'll do easy. have been adding. And then the last thing that I'll say you do after you've tasted that all of your seasoning is right is crayfish. I tell you that crayfish is one of the main things that makes eru eru. Crayfish is the actual star of this meal. I put enough crayfish, I'll say perhaps three heaped dish spoons of crayfish will make the eru taste good. Depends on how much we have of it abroad. If you don't have that much, you can actually add crayfish cubes, which is some sort of seasoning, which is crayfish flavored. But I had some crayfish and I want to make this special for you guys. So I put enough of it and I carried on with the stirring process till it properly mixed. At this point, note that all of my other spices are okay, but I just don't get it as salty as I need it to because there is a bit of salt in crayfish. Another tip that I learned is that in the middle, once that's prepared, because I don't want this to get brown, I want it to stay green, I create a hole in the center and I put my palm oil. Palm oil is purely optional on the amount. So people like it really, really oily. Some people like it not so oily because of the health reasons whatsoever. But if you're cooking a traditional pot of eru, well, with the Bayangi or the Mani people or their jagams, like mom will say, I'm a jagam, is you just keep stirring it in the middle and you put as much as you want. In this case, I did put a generous amount and I realized that I needed some more, so I just kept adding. But when you leave it in the center of the pot to cook, you're sure that it cooks from top, bottom, and doesn't have that oily smell. And it means that you don't have to leave your pot cooking for so long to get your eru not looking as green and fresh as you'll want it. So that's me again. I carry on mixing till all of the oils have properly mixed into the pot of eru. The last thing to add will be my pepper and my strong kanda. I put the pepper at the end because my kids will eat this and I don't want it to be too peppery, so I did not blend any of it. I just put it whole and I put this fish at the end so that it doesn't get completely shattered without noticing it. This is put at the end because the fish is very, very soft by nature. And then I give it a good mix like this. And this is the end of the most difficult process of cooking eru. Eru can be eaten with water fufu or akpu, Nigerians call it, gari, yellow gari, or you can use pounded yam if you're abroad. You can use kumkum. Or if you're a health freak or you like to eat healthy, and I'll advise elderly people or people who want to keep fit, so you can either have it with cauliflower fufu, you can have it with oats fufu, or you can have it with cabbage fufu. I hope that you've enjoyed this recipe and I can imagine that you're salivating like me. Served it and my family had it for lunch. I hope that this recipe I have shared today will help you to achieve the green look and get you to cook eru like a perfectionist and like a proper money woman. Anyway, thanks very much for watching this video. And if you find my recipes or my videos helpful in the future, please consider subscribing because I'll be sharing a lot throughout December, ideas for Christmas. And this is Vlogmas season. And yes, thanks for watching. And I'll see you definitely in my next video.